The brain. A fascinating, unique, and peculiar thing. And the topic that I'm going to be talking about. Specifically, I'm going to focus on the difference between the brains of men and women. A controversial topic in the scientific community. Men's brains are generally larger than women's. Does that mean that men are generally smarter than women? Well done. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! No, it does not. But before I get into all of that, let me briefly introduce the organ that I'm going to be talking about. The mysterious, alluring, and complex structure of nervous cells that houses all of our thoughts and feelings. Talking about nervous cells, how many neurons do you think we humans have? A. All good guesses. A. 1 million neurons. B. 50 million neurons. Or C. 86 billion neurons. Think about it. Well done. Good answer. The correct answer, and most of you were right, is 86 billion neurons. Crazy, right? So neurons are basically the MVPs, or most important players of the brain. They transmit electrical impulses, aka information, between the different parts of the brain, as well as between the brain and the rest of the nervous system. I have 3 brothers, and being the only girl of the family, I've always wanted to relate to them and be like them. However, being the, extremely competitive person that I am, I also wanted to beat them and be better than them at everything we ever did. Yet it seemed like I was the one who was always lagging behind. I was behind them in everything from sports to schoolwork. I was the slowest, the clumsiest, and the one who always lost their temper during a seemingly frightening game of Monopoly. I was behind them in everything you could think of. This is where my interest in neuroscience comes in. I wanted to find out more about the brain and what made me different from my brothers. I wanted to know what the difference was between the male and the female brain. As a young kid, one of the hardest things for me to understand was the concept of fractions. How could there possibly be a number between 0 and 1? Inconceivable! So, my mother decided to explain this mysterious phenomenon using a pizza. She proceeded to divide it up into several different parts and explain it to me. After her explanation, my little brother proceeded to poke his head out from under the table and ask for an eighth of the pizza. Just by listening in, he had managed to grasp a concept that was well beyond his years. Well, it took me several days, 3 pizzas, and a pie to grasp the same concept. But wait, hold on. I was the one who was older and bigger. So logically, that meant my brain was larger, and that meant I was smarter. Right? Well, as it turns out, a bigger brain doesn't mean more intelligence. Typically, the bigger the animal, the bigger the brain. Here, you can observe a size comparison between the brains of several different species. Each species has its own unique brain structure. And as you can see, we don't exactly have the biggest brains. In fact, animals such as the bottlenose dolphin, the African elephant, and the sperm whale actually have bigger brains than we do, yet we're smarter than they are. Let's get back to the big question. Men are, on average, bigger than women. Therefore, on average, they have bigger brains. However, this doesn't mean they are on average, this doesn't make them smarter. There are no significant differences between the IQ scores of men and women. And a 2015 study by University of Vienna found the brain volume actually has very little to do with the intelligence of an individual. So bigger isn't always better. My brothers were always tinkering with things, breaking them apart and examining their insides. Old computers, TVs, calculators, and other gadgets. Mum always had to lock away her hairdryer, while Dad always hid the remote controls. At 10 years old, my little brother built himself a PC from scratch, from different parts that he bought. The older ones also built their own computers. You see, I'm the one with a regular old MacBook. So why is it that they were so good at building things? Why was I never interested in taking things apart? Well, according to a 2009 study of children aged 4 to 11, girls tend to prefer activities linked with empathy, while boys tend to prefer systems and machines. Other differences I've come across while doing research were that women have a thicker cortex. They also have a larger proportion of grey matter, which is the group of cells that form the cortex. Apart from that, men have a larger amygdala. What is the amygdala, you might be asking yourselves? Well, dear listeners, the amygdala are two almond-shaped structures, very small almond-shaped structures, located in both hemispheres that are involved in the processing of emotions and experiences. Furthermore, researchers from UC Irvine have actually found that the amygdala behaves differently in men and women. Moreover, another difference I've come across is that women have a larger hippocampus, which is the part of the brain associated with learning and memory. And aside from being bigger, it also works differently. In addition, a 2014 study by the University of Pennsylvania found that women showed strongly coordinated activity between the hemispheres, while the activity in men's brains was more focused to specific local regions. Their activity tended to be concentrated and localized to one hemisphere, while the activity in women's brains tended to zigzag and cross both hemispheres. And according to the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, this might explain why women are generally better at multitasking than men. These differences that I mentioned don't imply that one is better than the other. They don't. But isn't it interesting to see how statistics show these slight differences in the workings of our brains? Fascinating. About a year ago, when I didn't really know what I wanted to study after I left school, I joined a neuroscience camp. I applied, and I got in. There, I spent a week in lectures, and another week doing a research project, which I presented on the final day. I found that I was truly interested and fascinated by neuroscience. I had finally found the thing that I was truly passionate about, and I felt on top of the world. I also learned many things about the brain. I've learned that it's a fascinating and complicated thing. There are a plethora of things we still don't know. However, we do know that no brain is like another. Yes, men and women have different brains, but so does everyone else. Now, if I could have you do something for me and look down at your hands. Now look at your fingertips. As you all know, each one of you has a unique set of fingerprints. But what if I told you that each one of you also has a unique brain? Shocking, yes. According to a study conducted by the University of Zurich, there are no two individuals with the same brain structure, as different genetics and experiences shape our brains into what they are. In this study, they collected images of around 200 adult brains and compared their different structures to each other. They found that no two individuals had the same combination of anatomical characteristics. So, what does this all mean? And what does it mean for you? Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're all different. Like fingerprints, no two brains are alike. It means that all of you here today are unique in your own way. And it means that all of you have something that you're good at. The conclusion to all the stories that I've shared and the data that I've collected is that uniqueness. The uniqueness of every individual. So, if I could leave you here with a piece of advice, if there's one thing that you remember from this talk, I'd like it to be this. Find the thing that you're good at. Because buried deep within each and every one of you is a grain, something wonderful and special, some kind of talent or passion. All we have to do is dig it out. Every time you feel average, remember that you're not, scientifically, because of this thing right here. You will have something special about you and something that you're the best at. All you have to do is find it. My message today was one about uniqueness, and I thought that was an idea worth spreading. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.